I like my raps extra prolific.
You know, a lot of people don't know, you know, you had to live out your car. I don't know what part of life was that,
Excellent.
but, you know, let's, show the people, the struggle. You know, people think you got it good and dandy all the time, right? Instead of, judging someone by not knowing their story.
Yeah, excellent, man. I always say you look at an iceberg, you see the tip of the iceberg, and you're like, man, I know everything about that iceberg until you look underneath the water and you see this big old floating hunk of ice. So people see me put together studio, partnerships, all this type of stuff, which is great. But the starting of that wasn't like that. So in Florida, for about 6 months, I lived in my car. My brother at that time had a house, but his house was full. So I was traveling around, going to work, going to visit my brother, going to visit my parents, and no one knew I was in my car. Now, I came from a history of privilege as far as knowing myself, knowing where I came from. My father, my mother both working, my father, my mother both being there. We weren't wealthy, but I called myself privileged because I had that family unit. So I understand that's what is actually wealth, is having a family unit. And as I grow older, I see that that was what was wealthy. So even though I was living in my car for about 6 months before I humbled myself, told my brother, and then moved in with him, and I was still sleeping on his couch before I went to Boston, right? And that's where I kind of got myself together. But that period was a little dark. It was a little dark, and I couldn't go home because I'm a junior and I'm, college educated and all this other stuff. I shouldn't be living in my car. But like most youth, especially men, especially black men, it's not an excuse. The world throws things at you, and it's how you adapt. So I didn't cry about it. I didn't tell anybody about it. I did it in silence until I got out of it, and I felt comfortable like I am now talking about it. But I feel like that story should be told for anybody out there that's going through those type of struggles. That should not define you. Again, the best is yet to come. Be better than you were yesterday. And that's what kind of stuck with me to continue on and to keep going.